Okay, so this is in Aeon magazine. It's called "Is Philosophy Therapy or Is It Simply a Search for Truth?" and it's by Nigel Warburton. He's a podcaster, and Jules Evans is a research fellow. So I think this is a bit of an interview about treating philosophy like therapy. And there is a history in philosophy where philosophy is treated like therapy. Most recently, Wittgenstein actually said that philosophy is like therapy. It's like sort of trying to coax us out of our like bad ways of thinking of the world. So, yeah. What was that? Okay. So Nigel Warburton says, there's been a lot of interest in reviving Stoic philosophy recently, particularly the therapeutic aspects of it. I'm skeptical about this, as in my view, philosophy is primarily an attempt to understand, and as such is an activity of inquiry. There's no guarantee that discovering how things are will benefit us psychologically, and might in fact make things much worse. As Friedrich Nietzsche pointed out, it might not even be possible to confront the deeper truths of reality head on. What would make human existence unbearable? What do you think? Curious of doing philosophy, yeah. Ironically, most people use philosophy to justify their crappy behavior. Yeah, so that's part of it too. People want to, think that they're rational, that they're, methodical, that they're smart, that they have reasons for doing stuff. And this is one of the reasons why, people use philosophy. They find a philosophy that suits them, and then they, justify post hoc what they're doing. They want after the fact justification. They don't actually think about it. They're not actually like methodical, but like that's what they do. Sam Bankman-Fried, yeah. So that's yeah. No one ever does that, Vipers. No one here, at least. Yeah. Bubba Mize, okay. Lumpy is a poopy head, by Hume. I think that's an actual quote. Okay, so Jules Evans says, personally, I'm not arguing that all philosophy is therapy, but rather that ancient Greeks and Romans viewed philosophy that way, as did many Indian philosophers. They developed various practical techniques which they said would help transform suffering that were part of a comprehensive philosophy of life. Yeah, so like right here, and this is part that Vipers was interested in, the idea that like humans suffer, like that's a Buddhist thing, of course, that life is suffering. There's a way that we can change the way we live so we do not suffer anymore. And that's how should we live is a question of philosophy too. Yeah. That picture is of Sigmund Freud's therapy couch in Austria. It's in his old living room. You've actually visited his museum there. Very cool. Yeah. You were there a month ago. Oh, cool, Illuminants. These techniques weren't simply positive thinking, rather they argued that we need to see the world as it is in all its instability and adversity and accept it. Some of these techniques have now been rediscovered and tested out by empirical psychologists who have found that they do indeed transform emotional suffering. I want to communicate this as much as possible because ancient philosophy really can help people overcome suffering, and that's to the credit of philosophy, which as you know is a much maligned and underfunded subject these days. Don't you think the more we communicate that, the higher philosophy's standing and relevance in the world will be? Now, do I think that well-being is a higher value than truth? No. I hope I would never cling to something because it made me happy if I suspected it wasn't true. Philosophy involves a relentless search for the truth, an unceasing examination of one's assumptions. And sorry, I can't this is just so tiring to me. It's a relentless search for the truth. Calm the fuck down, people. Calm the fuck down, all right? There's no relentless search for anything in this life. I mean, if you're relentlessly searching for something, you need to goddamn relax. Take a chill pill, all right? Yeah. I enjoy that search, which is why I didn't stop at Stoicism, but I've kept on looking because I don't think Stoicism is the whole truth about reality, but what gives me the motive to keep on looking is ultimately a sort of platonic faith that the truth is good and that's good for me. Why bother searching unless you thought the destination was worth reaching? It'll make more sense if you read it in an English accent. Yeah, maybe. I wish I'm terrible at accents at the moment. So, okay, Nigel says, obviously not all philosophies of life work equally well. You mentioned that there's some empirical support for the psychological techniques that you find in some ancient philosophy. Could you be more specific about this? Jolly good, yes. We've got a theological discussion going on in chat. Okay, so Jules says, cognitive behavioral therapy, that CBT, is one of the few talk therapies that is approved by the UK's National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. Oh, yeah, and they made it nice. Jesus. And provided by the NHS. Its two inventors, U.S. psychotherapists Albert Ellis and Aaron Beck, both told me that they were directly inspired by Stoicism. Specifically, CBT is based on the Stoic idea that our emotions are connected to our thoughts and beliefs, and we can learn to attain cognitive distance from our automatic beliefs and see them as just thoughts rather than the truth. CBT also took specific practices for transforming our thoughts from ancient Greek philosophy, such as using a journal to track and challenge habitual thought patterns, using maxims to memorize and habituate thoughts, insights, using visualization techniques to change perspective, using fieldwork or behavioral homework to turn new beliefs into habitual actions, and so on. Yes, jolly good. Nigel says, isn't that an argument for using psychological techniques such as CBT rather than going back to ancient Stoicism? Aristotle was a significant proto-scientist, but present-day scientists would be ill-advised to base their practice on his. Joel says, if you have an acute emotional disorder, CBT is certainly the place to start. However, CBT leaves out important stuff. First, it's less beautifully written than the works of, say, Marcus Aurelius, Lucretius, or Seneca, and beauty has a power over the soul. Secondly, CBT instrumentalizes the ancient techniques and leaves out any idea of the ethical goal, happiness, inner peace, virtue, justice, etc. Third, CBT doesn't consider how ethics is connected to physics. The ancients try to answer and at least remind us that this is an important question. Fourth, CBT is designed to be a short-term 8 to 16-week intervention rather than a philosophy of life that is something you practice your whole life. But it wouldn't be appropriate for a therapist to impose an ethical philosophy on you as a cure for depression or anxiety. They give you the basic self-change techniques, but it's for you to choose your broader life philosophy. Yeah, Team Stoic. Yeah, I know. A lot of people are pretty pro-Stoic. I am, I'm not a Stoic, but I am mostly okay with people signing up for a lot of Stoicism. I'm not as angry with it as I don't like Stoicism, but then again, in the grand scheme of things, it's okay. It's okay. We know our friend Aris. He's railed against the Broics, which is, sort of like getting a bro-y sort of philosophy out of it. No one likes that. But I'm okay with if you want to be a little bit Stoic, that's fine. I'm a little bit Stoic. I'm Cynic. The Stoics came from the Cynics. It's got a lot in common. Nigel says, I suppose this all turns on what you think philosophy is. I see philosophy as an activity of thinking critically about what we are and where we stand in relation to the world, an activity with a long and rich history. Philosophy is concerned with how things are, the limits of what we can know, and how we should live. Oh, God. Could you just not do platitudes? Just stop. Just stop with the platitudes. You have a point. Philosophy is sometimes they think is more like a rubbish bin. All the stuff you can't figure out, that's what philosophy is. So it's the limits of what we can know. Sounds nice. It just means the edge of what we know. We don't know what the fuck happens after a certain point. Viper says, I think people just use Stoicism as a learned synonym for emotional self-regulation without all the extra baggage that comes with the word. Yeah. Your ex-boyfriend is philosophy. There we go. See, that's the way to do it. Do it with the jokes. The jokes are better. Okay. It is anti-dogmatic and thrives on questioning assumptions. Shut up, man. Because you can never figure your shit out. Yeah, exactly. But that's it. What is actually the problems in your world? It's going to be all these the limits of what we know. These platitudes are just dressing it up. These are just the hard questions that you can't figure out. That's all it is. And you just sort of group them together and you figure out what you can do with them. And that's what philosophy is. Now, if you want to say philosophy is a subject and these are a subject, fine. I don't care. You don't need to go swing a poker at me, Wittgenstein. But Wittgenstein has a point. I'm sort of on his side, but he needed to chill the fuck out too. For the people who know the old fucking, there was a argument between, Carnap and Wittgenstein. No, it was Karl Popper. And they were arguing basically over, is philosophy a discipline? There's a thing that is philosophy. And Wittgenstein, there's just problems that we have. It's whatever. Primal says it's more like the basis of psychology is philosophy and religion. Yeah, it pulls from both bases. It definitely does. So it's I guess I was gonna say the author, but it's not. The argument here is that basically they've pulled some things out of the Stoic philosophy for the psychology, and the Nigel here is saying, look, there's more to it, and we can do better. And so it's maybe there is more to it still. So I can appreciate that the psychologists don't have the, like, CBT is not the end all be all. It's going to continue to be developed over time. And they're saying here in this little interview thing that the way to continue it is to, mine where it came from, which is the Stoic philosophy. All right. No serious philosophy is likely to leave the philosopher unchanged, but that doesn't mean that the change will be for the better or more consoling. To think otherwise is begging the question. There are huge dangers of self-deception here in thinking that philosophy is some kind of panacea that will make us all better, saner people. Just to give an example, impeccable logic from false premises can lead you very far astray. How do you see philosophy? So Jules says, I approach philosophy as a sort of pragmatism. I have a set of values and an idea of how the world is, and I try it out and see if I can live by it, if it fits reality, if it leads to an expanded sense of flourishing. And reality, including other people, feeds back to me, lets me know if I'm living wisely or foolishly. That two-way process is always changing, you're always adapting and revisiting assumptions, but no one can be entirely anti-dogmatic. One needs a set of values and opinions to live by. I think you must have one too, no? I'm sure it has changed over time, but if you were a complete skeptic like Pyrrho, you wouldn't know whether to get out of bed or not. You like the use of the word flourishing. You don't say eudaimonia. Nigel says, yes, of course we must take some things for granted, but everything in principle can be questioned, though some beliefs are more firmly rooted than others. I like your idea of a reflective equilibrium between ideas and lived experience. What values do you try to live by as a result of this approach? Jules says, I try to live by humility, kindness, reverence, and creativity, but if you knew how badly I live by those values, you would laugh at me. How about you? Nigel says, I like Bertrand Russell's message to the future delivered on the BBC in 1959. He boiled down his philosophical values to two principles. First, try to look solely at the facts on any issue rather than what you would like to be true. No easy task, of course. Second, and this is another hard one to live up to, quote, love is wise, hatred is foolish, end quote. We have to learn to put up with the fact that people will say things we don't like, detest even. To live together, we need to be able to speak freely and tolerate others who do that too. Like you, I obviously fail to live up to these values much of the time, but these are good principles nonetheless. You know what's funny? I mean, okay, this cute little article, I mean, that's it. I mean, this is public philosophy, nothing too crazy. They're just platitudes is part of it, like my complaints notwithstanding. I find this real interesting. Love is wise, hatred is foolish. And then they switch immediately to, we have to learn to put up with the fact that people will say things that we don't like, detest even. Does that really follow from love is wise, hatred is foolish? Like, loving the person, you don't have to put up with their bullshit. Like, you don't have to hate them, but you don't have to put up with them saying, like, really heinous things. So I find that weird. It's also axiomatic, flourishing, or something else. Just accept that love is wise. Yeah, you could do that. That's fine. It doesn't follow it's a separate principle, I think. Yeah, so I find this interesting that they slipped so quickly from love is wise, hatred is foolish to some sort of like speak freely. That doesn't seem to follow at all. But again, public philosophy, and they're just sort of like throwing words out there at this point. So it's interesting that that's what they said, but yeah, okay. All right, that was cutesy thing. I don't know if I want to bother review this. I mean, do you guys want to review this? Well, that's the thing. Maybe he did think it followed. Nigel sometimes turfy. Yeah, it's like a little bit. It's not like that's like just throwing that shit out there. Yeah. Okay, we've got some questions people doing. Viper says, I think a better version of that comes from Maya Angelou. You should be angry. You must not be bitter. Bitterness is like cancer. It eats upon the host. It doesn't do anything to the object of displeasure. So you use that anger. You write it, you paint it, you dance it, you march it, you vote it. You do everything about it. You talk it, never stop talking it. Yeah, that sounds much, I think that's a way, way, way better version of this sort of thing. Like, and this is one of the reasons I'm not stoic. I think anger is good for all the reasons that Maya Angelou just said. You should be angry. It's not that you shouldn't be, you should have your emotions in check. It's that no, sometimes you should be angry, and then you should be using that anger to be motivating yourself to do stuff. And that, I think that's a good point. So yeah. Okay, so we've got a complicated chain. Yes, Twitch chat may not be the best thing to do philosophy and complex argumentation in. It's one of these things you find out. So yeah. So it's one of the reasons I'm not a Stoic is because I think the stronger emotions are important to getting shit done, and in your life you have to be able to handle these things, because otherwise you're going to be missing out on some interesting human experience. Now, I can also appreciate that the Stoics are like, yeah, you don't want it to be out of control either. And I agree with that also. You don't want to be like thrown around by your emotions. That's not great either. And so you do need a level of discipline so that you can, like, when you are too angry or other things, you can, do something about it and not just be stuck being angry. But yeah, like, I'm pissed off today. I'm not having a great day, but I can handle it. It's nothing too bad. Yeah, regulation and suppression. Yeah, you have to have, I mean, you'd be like, regulators, round up. But, it's like, I think you need like a less, like, I try to direct, like if I'm angry, I try to direct some of that, like, effort and, like, what's the word? Well, whatever it is, you try to direct my, effort and motivation at something. Yeah. Someone's gonna die, Retheus. I got a family friend gonna die. So, it's shitty. But how you doing? Kidney failure. So, but yeah. Alright. This is cutesy. I don't think this is worth rating, but we'll switch over to the, paper that Aris asked for. Okay, cool. Yep, little bit of a shitty day. Yeah, do you want to rate this? I didn't put the. If you do the, all right, we'll put the rating on. You know what? Let's do that. God damn it, me, wrong button. This is the ratings. So Ivan, if you want to do it, you don't have to rate it. We can throw it in. Why not? Shit, I fucked up. I need to put the link in first. Yeah, so, alright. So, you know what? I'm gonna give this a vote yay, actually. I agree with Ivan. Like, even though it's got problems, just a quick little vote yay. If anyone else wants to throw one in, yeah, brain dance. Like, I don't think this is, like, as far as public philosophy goes, I agree that philosophy can be therapeutic, and I think they presented the ideas okay, my complaints notwithstanding. So it's like, this is not a bad thing. All you gotta say is, like, look, people have been asking about the good life. Some people have actually, some of these ideas seem to be not that bad. There's overlap between philosophy and religious stuff in this area. And so you're going to have traditions that are saying, here's how to live well. So yeah. Yeah, this could have been a TikTok. That's fine, Ann. It's like, yeah, if you're not finding it interesting, that's okay. But as far as a little bit of public philosophy, I thought it was all right. They said some dumb things in the course of it. That might be personal style. Not that bad. So it's like, yeah, it could have been a TikTok. It could have been... But again, for all I know, what day is this from? 2020? Is this? No, this isn't. You wrote a book in 2020. What's the, when was this published? This is from 2016. So this is 8 years ago, actually. Yeah. It's just vanilla. Yeah. So, yeah. So, this is basically just riding the Stoic wave when it was like coming up. This is the Stoic wave when everyone was like, ooh, yeah, like I went one over to my buddy's house and I could see he had a Marcus Aurelius on his toilet. Like he was reading it when he was on the shitter. It's like, yeah. Maybe you're romantic about philosophy. Ivan, you're a romantic. That's so sweet. You get booted off the New York subway? No. Ivan, the idea that anyone would give a shit about you on the New York subway is, no one gives a shit about you. Like, you're not getting booted off. If you stunk, you might get... No, you're not even if you stink, you don't get booted off. That's the problem with the fucking subway. Okay. But thank you for the ratings. I mean, like I said, as far as public philosophy goes, it was like, it was a little bit of fluff.